Kanto is about to get the ultimate remake. That's what I think anyway. In 2026, Pokémon will mark 30 years as a franchise. That is terrifying, 30 years, my god. And of course, we all expect them to celebrate it in some pretty big ways. Generation 10 of Pokémon is currently being tipped for that year. That would go against the established 3-year mainline cycle, but with Legends ZA not having a release date as of recording this video, we don't know whether that could end up being the holiday release of 2025. We're still in the dark about that game in a lot of ways, and as an extension of that, the release cycle for the next couple of years as a whole. So there's a lot of conversation firing off about that at the moment. Totally fine if ZA is towards the later half of 2025, we're okay with letting Pokemon cook. I may struggle for content, but that is a sacrifice I'm definitely willing to make. Personally though, I have a wacky prediction that Kanto is going to get a remake in early 2026, to coincide with Pokemon's 30-year anniversary. So people have been predicting Gen 10 for 2026 because it's the 30-year anniversary. It's a convenient little lining up of the stars, isn't it? 30 years, 10 generations. But if that is the case, I can't imagine Gen 10 coming out at any other point of the year than the holiday season. The brand new generation always comes out around then. Nowadays anyway, now we have simultaneous worldwide releases. It makes business sense to release them around that time as well, you could say. I feel like it would probably be hype, but then very quickly anticlimactic if the 30th anniversary announced a big game, but then it's not coming out for another 9 months. I feel like that'd be letting such a big anniversary sweep by without anything physical happening. I think something substantial is going to happen, either on the 30th anniversary date itself, or at least within that week. And by something happening, I mean something releasing. And my spitball theory for today is that at some point, maybe Pokemon Day 2025, we're gonna get an announcement for a remake like none other. A huge remake for the Kanto region. So what would this crazy Kanto remake look like? In fact, I don't know if I should be calling it a remake as such with what I'm picturing. I think it's going to reimagine the region completely. Right now, when remakes or revisits come out, particularly the ones like the Let's Go games where it's the 2D era games being brought into 3D, they still take place in the same space as the originals. The map keeps the same proportions, all the buildings are facing the same direction. It's the pixel sprite games rebuilt for a 3D experience. I think that rulebook's going to be torn to pieces with this one, and Pallet Town's going to look more like this, rather than this. And that'll extend to the entire map. We're going to have a total rebuild of Kanto. It's going to vastly expand and add a lot of new stuff to the region. And this could serve as a sort of reboot for Pokémon remakes, and a way to fully bring those 2D era games into not just 3D, but the more expansive 360-degree POV 3D we have nowadays. That was a mouthful to say. I'd even go as far as to envisage an open world for this Kanto remake, or at least a semi-open world. I will admit I am sort of pulling from my wishlist with this spitball prediction, because I think we need older regions to look more fleshed out when they do get revisited now. It's a reason why I'm of the opinion that we don't necessarily need traditional remakes anymore, that we should be seeing something more akin to sequels. You could still shoehorn the original story in there if you wanted to, but the main point is, I want to see Celadon City as if it was built for Scarlet and Violet, because it would look very different. And that is exactly what I think is going to happen in 2026. When it comes to the older games, rather than remake, just remaster them and port them up to the newer console. That would be more than enough for me. In fact, let me ruffle a few feathers here with a really controversial opinion I formed the other day. Don't take this too seriously because I am an idiot, but I just can't resist apparently. But if Pokemon made BDSP style reskins for generations 1 to 5, I would buy them. I didn't dislike BDSP as much as the average person, I feel. I never played the original Diamond and Pearl, so that absolutely will have something to do with it, and it did feel like a bit of a cop-out. But to have the opportunity to play that generation in a semi-original way was enough for me to feel content with it. But my ultimate wish for if that did happen for Gens 1 to 5 would be for an untampered with port of the original game to also be thrown in for free, whether it's included on the cartridge or just entitles you to a download from the eStore. Imagine if you could flick between the two with the same save file. That'd be sweet. I remember speaking to some younger Pokemon fans a couple of years ago, and them telling me that they just can't play the older pixel sprite games. It's just not their era. It's not in their gaming DNA, if you will. to play those older games. They want a poppy 3D experience. They preferred the aesthetic of BDSP to the original Diamond and Pearl. So that's where I can still see the market for BDSP style games. Digression aside, I think what I'm predicting here though will be a Kanto game featuring the original story for the most part, but with just more depth, more things to do, maybe even a couple of extra locations added to the map. One thing I think will be different though is we won't be playing as Red. Red will be part of the game, but he will be a second rival in effect, alongside Blue. Red will be the friendly rival who helps us out along the way, and Blue will be the unfriendly rival who constantly tries to wind us up, and constantly jibes Red for needing the rookie's help to get past certain obstacles. Then, acting as the grounding character will be the third rival, Leaf. So we're going for a ragtag gang of 4, just like in Scarlet and Violet. So it's the same narrative with small tweaks here and there to accommodate the new team of characters. And I think it will feature the OG 151 of the Kanto Pokédex, as well as a select number of Pokémon from other generations via home transfer. Kanto catches a lot of criticism from Pokémon fans, particularly from fans that weren't around for Generation 1, and maybe gave it a go later down the line. And it's completely understandable. Kanto is bare bones Pokémon. It's Pokémon in its baby form, in a way. The Gen 1 games had no fancy mechanics, the story of Red, Blue and Yellow isn't that crazy. You're just experiencing the basic premise of Pokémon for the most part. But it is where everything began, and it feels like things are lined up nicely for a return to that very first region. If you class 10 years as a generation of players, then we're about to hit a new generation of potential fans with Pokémon's 30th year. And Kanto is a nice entry point region for new players. I feel like I have to clarify here that I'm not just some Gen 1er who has an eternal longing for Gen 1. I actually really want a new Johto game, really bad. Johto is my home in the Pokemon world. But there's something about not getting the remakes we all anticipated announced in the recent Pokemon Day presentation. Patterns are being broken. Pokemon don't seem to be giving much stock to, which game is due a remake next? Which region haven't we visited in a long time? It feels like if they have an idea for something, regardless of generation, they're just rolling ahead with it. I know many of you watching this could be shaking your heads and thinking, God no, not more Kanto, please. And I'm sort of there with you, but I can envision it happening. To try and pull in new players as the ultimate nostalgia bait for older players, Kanto just fits the bill, doesn't it? As I said, this is a spitball theory. I'm most likely going to be wrong, but I enjoy talking about the possibilities. And it's a nice way to kick off some conversation. So I'd love to hear what you guys think the next couple of years are going to look like for Pokemon. Because I feel like it's been a good while since we were this in the dark about things. The Legends ZA announcement put us all in knots. Everything we thought might have been in the near future pipeline seems like it's probably much further away. So how can you guys see the next couple of years going for Pokemon? Let me know down in the comments. While you're down there, drop a like on the video, it's a big help. Subscribe if you're new. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.